Health Monday with our friends from Marble City Pharmacy, Jared and Jacob. They caught the red eye from Arizona to be specifically on Daybreak this morning. And guys, I appreciate that. Good morning.
That's how important this show is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, my wife, the Super Bowl is really important to her. She thought that the Hawks were playing. So other than the wrong sport and the wrong city, she did really well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm flattered that we're the official TV 47 Super Bowl
Oh,
correspondent.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and we'll keep that in mind. Darlene, meantime, she goes by colors.
Absolutely.
Well, sure.
She said that green team,
I like those
or that
uniforms.
red team.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let's talk a little this morning about drug reactions. Jared, what are we talking about here? Drug reactions.
Well, we're going to get to some more differentiation here in just a second. But when we talk about drug reactions, generally speaking, we're talking about a person being introduced to a medication and they get a reaction generally that manifests in a rash. And these kind of rashes usually happen all over the trunk, usually happen on both sides, front and back. So we want to be clear about what we mean by drug reactions, and Jacob's going to differentiate here in a second what we mean between drug reactions and side effects.
Jacob, my wife Darlene had surgery last week, knee surgery. And, you know, they put you to sleep and stuff. And so she comes out of recovery up to the room and she's sick. She had a reaction to the anesthesia. So there's all kind of reactions to drugs that we can deal with, I guess.
Very good lead in here. So yes, she had a reaction to the anesthesia, meaning she had a side effect from the anesthesia. There's a big difference between drug allergic reactions and drug side effects. I mean, both stink. I don't want either of them, but
Yeah.
but they're a reality. And side effects are by far, in a way, the most common. You know, side effects. You know, I took an antibiotic and you know I got my stomach hurt, or you know I took my ibuprofen and it upset my stomach, or I had diarrhea, or anesthesia made me sick. Those types of things are everyday occurrences that are annoying and certainly not fun when you get them, but they're not drug allergic reactions. And the reason it's very important to differentiate, and I tell people this all the time, if you list something as a drug allergy and you get really sick and that would be the best drug for you, guess what the doctor can't give you? When in reality, probably all you had was a side effect from it the time you took it, but you decided that was an allergy. and you put that on your list.
Yeah.
Well, hey, once it's on that medical chart, it's a big deal. So now you're sick and doctor needs to give you drug X, but it's on your list of you one time had a side effect and you call it an allergy, and now we can't give it to you. So it's a big deal to know the difference.
Yeah, and Jared, it can be pretty serious.
They can be serious. You know, far and away, I don't have percentages right here off the top of my head, but far and away the most common drug allergies are rashes, like we talked about. They're very minor things, and that, especially in kids. You talk about things like antibiotics, they first get introduced to them, happens all the time. They can be a lot more serious than that. There is a certain reaction that's called anaphylaxis. You guys may have heard that word. That would be a very serious reaction to a medication where your blood pressure drops. Sometimes you get some swelling in the lips. You get the closing of the throat to where you can't breathe. Obviously, that's very serious. Those are your type patients who have to carry around EpiPens or have to have epinephrine with them just in case they have this type of reaction. And then a third level of seriousness, which would be as serious or maybe potentially more serious than that, would be a very specific drug reaction that starts to eat away at the skin. Jacob and I have both been out of school for 20 plus years, and we've each seen this reaction one time. So that happens almost never. It's not a situation where you don't want to avoid drugs because of that. But let me repeat, far and away, the most common type of allergic reaction to medications are rashes that are minor and can be fixed by stopping the medication, taking some Benadryl, and then it's over.
Jacob, I've heard people say, and I'm sure y'all have heard people say they're not feeling well. It must be the medicine. Must be the medicine. So what are some of the common medications that can cause a reaction?
The common medications for allergic reactions for drugs by far are antibiotics, and among those, penicillin-based drugs and what we call sulfa drugs are the most common.
Why?
That's a good question. And if you want a chemistry lecture here today, we will break out the medicinal chemistry.
Let me strike that note over
it's-
there.
We
yeah,
don't have any charts.
yeah, I would have to show charts of drug
Okay,
structures
all
and
right.
point to this is why.
I got you.
But yeah, for chemical reasons, those two are the most common. And then in terms of non-antibiotic drugs, people have higher than other allergic reactions to anti-inflammatory drugs, aspirin, ibuprofen, naproxen. Those are very common. You can get them over the counter. Those are the most common. Now, back to my earlier question, it is confusing because the most common drugs to cause allergic reactions also are some of the most common drugs to cause those side effects that people mistake with allergic reactions. So it does get confusing.
Insulin reaction.
Insulin.
Insulin. Is that what I'm saying? Oh, that's sulfur. Hey, you need to write better.
It's very difficult to read.
It is,
My
especially when you're flying back on red eye. Sulfur allergy.
We actually had the flight attendant write that for us.
Let's try sulfur reaction.
Well, we get the next couple of things we're going to cover are probably two of the most common questions we get about drug reactions. And one of them is, I have a sulfur allergy. What kind of drugs can I not take? Let me just back up for just a second. And this is not to be insulting, but there's no such thing as a sulfur allergy. It's referred to as a sulfonamide allergy. So if you are allergic, for example, to a medication called Bactrim, that's a sulfonamide antibiotic. You are not allergic to sulfur. So if you go to pick up your vitamins on the shelf and you see that one of the ingredients is sulfur, you are not allergic to that vitamin, right? So it's a sulfonamide. That's a grouping in a chemical structure. Not to get too technical here, okay? There are other medications that have sulfonamide groups in their chemical structure that are not sulfa antibiotics. Again, not trying to get too complicated. But when people ask, are there other medicines that I can't take because I have this sulfa allergy? For the most part, the answer is you can take just about anything on the shelf. The question I got last week was, my inhaler says albuterol sulfate. Can I take this medicine if I have a sulfa allergy? The answer is yes. Again, not to bore you with a chemistry lecture, but those are unrelated. So these are very important questions for your pharmacist or for your physician because, again, as Jacob said, you don't want to not get medicine that you need because of a situation where you think you can't take it and you really can.
Jacob, this is not on our Q&A here, but
You can't read it anyway, don't worry about it.
you know, often people will go to the doctor or for surgery or whatever, and they got these questionnaires, you know, that you fill out. Are you allergic to any medicine? Automatically, we say no. But in a lot of cases, that's not accurate.
Truth be told, it's accurate a lot more often than you think. Most people are not allergic to any medications. I'll give you a good stat. 10% of people in the United States will tell you they have a penicillin allergy. 10%. Any time that a group of physicians, like a hospital group, has ever actually taken those people and tested them, actual testing, lab testing, it's less than 1%. But 10%, we're going to put on that list for me, for the doctor, for whoever else, I'm penicillin allergy. And this huge list of drugs they may need when they get sick goes out the window. But if we actually draw blood and test, they got diarrhea one time from an antibiotic, which is a common side effect, and listed a penicillin allergy. And they have no drug allergy.
Yeah.
And so the vast majority of people have no drug allergies. So most people hit no, and there's a good reason.
Jared, penicillin, you mentioned that earlier, and reactions to penicillin, you know, in that scenario, what other drugs should we avoid?
Well, first of all, like Jake said, penicillin is one of the most common, I guess, answers to the question, are you allergic to any medication? We get that all the time. And most people mean either this, I took penicillin and it made my stomach hurt or gave me diarrhea, or when I was a small child, I took penicillin, I broke out in a rash, and my parents told me that I had a penicillin allergy. Okay, there are two different things there. First of all, there's a difference in side effect. and drug reaction, right? Which we've been talking about over and over. Very important to differentiate. But when a small child takes penicillin and breaks out in a rash, the truth is, and most of the time as an adult, they can come back and take that same medicine and be just fine. But if a person has a true penicillin reaction, in other words, their throat swells up and they can't breathe, obviously that's a very serious thing. They're going to want to avoid penicillin itself, but also the other medications in the penicillin family. And then just to be safe, even though this crossover happens probably 10% or less of the time, they'll avoid medications in a family called cephalosporins. The most common ones, you'll know the names of these, would be Keflex and Ceftonir, which are common medications used in antibiotics all the time. So there are some situations where you can have a very serious reaction. There are certain families of medicines you want to avoid. But again, if your penicillin problem was a rash when you were a little kid, most likely that medication is going to be fine for you. And in a situation where you get some illness where you have to have penicillin, it's going to be important for you to be able to tell the doctor and the pharmacist exactly what happened to you. Because if it's a drug you have to have and you need it, we want to make sure you get it if you can take it.
And Jacob, most of these medicines that we're talking about here are prescription medicine from the doctor. But I can go into your store and over-the-counter medication for whatever, and I'm looking at the ingredients, and I'm looking, well, I don't know if I can take this or not take this.
Lots of foreign words there.
Yeah. Better case scenario, I may need to ask you guys.
Yeah, and honestly, this is going to sound, this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, a statement that is true in and of itself, and that most people who have drug allergies have lots of drug allergies, and they need to ask every time they pick up something off the shelf. The vast majority of people, no allergies of any kind. I mean, I'm 43 years old and have never been allergic to anything in my life. I never think about, am I going to be allergic to this, because I would know by now. Good for you. I would know by now. But if you have an allergy to product A or product B, that's a reasonable chance you're also allergic to product C, people that are allergic type people are just allergic type people. It's unfortunate but true for those people. People that are just never allergic to anything, they're not going to suddenly be one day. Yeah. But yeah, if you're one of those people that has a lot of allergies, where I was going with that is when you want to pick up some ibuprofen or something off the shelf at the store, just come grab the pharmacist real quick. Hey, I'm allergic to X, Y, and Z. Can I take this? It's a simple, quick answer usually that we can just top of our heads throw an answer to. It's no big deal.
Yeah, someone asked me the other day, or mentioned the other day, that they were allergic to this show.
What were the symptoms?
Only when we're on, yeah. Only when we're on.
Thank y'all for coming this morning, and I know you're excited about the move into your remodel store, and it is going absolutely great, isn't it?
It's going great. You know, the drive-thru is now humming, as you mentioned earlier,
right.
And we're trying to spread our attention out between all the people shopping and the people who come through the drive-thru. So we're not trying to ignore you, right?
Yes, we are.
We're trying to ignore you. That's a good point.
Yeah, I know you're trying to ignore
Special
me,
treatment for you.
Actually, we like it when you come through the drive-thru because we can get you in and out of there.
Yeah.
It's very quick going through there.
Get you out of the store.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, thank y'all both for coming today. And before we go, the gift shop, man, that thing's looking good too, isn't it?
Man, we got some great. tomorrow's
Don't forget
Valentine's
it.
Day. Listen, guys, real important.
I might have
Tomorrow
forgotten that.
is Valentine's Day. Jacob's gonna have to go shopping at work just today. We got some fantastic gifts for Valentine's Day, men and women. But especially women. So come on in, guys, before tomorrow.
All right. Thank you guys for coming. We'll be back with a little bit more on Daybreak Live as we close this edition of the show. Henry and Ella Luna coming up at the top of the hour. Thanks to our friends from Marvin City Pharmacy. We're back in just a minute.